Good morning and happy Saturday and happy November. It is November 1st. Did we all survive Halloween? We had no trick-or-treaters. We live at the end of a private road with only two other houses on the road with us, and we had nothing for trick-or-treaters. But I hope you had a good time for Halloween. My name's Michelle. I'm with Olive and 2U Studios. I'm here typically every Saturday morning at 9:30 Eastern Time. And speaking of time, tonight is the night to fall back on the clocks if you're in an area that does that, I do believe. So mark that down. Mark it down. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, I invite you to do so today. And if you would, please give us a thumbs up if you like any of the things that we're chatting about today. We've got some fun things to get to today for sure. I see some of our Yarny users here live. Welcome to you, and welcome to you if you happen to be watching later. That, again, is the beauty of YouTube. You can watch it anytime that works for you. Okay, so interesting things to talk about today, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of a heads up. I'm going to delve into some of my works in progress today, to share some of them with you, because we're going to talk about monogamy today. Is monogamy overrated? I just want to know. I have to tell you something funny. This morning, I was talking to Jim, my husband, and I said, so this is the title of my podcast today, is monogamy overrated? He was making a cup of tea and he was like, oh? He turned and looked at me. He goes, what exactly are you talking about? Talking about knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, sewing, all the crafts. So I think his blood pressure went down just a little bit and he settled down a little. He's like, what are you talking about? So I really started thinking the last few days about monogamy, mostly because I have been in a mad dash to do all of the things lately. I mentioned last week on the podcast that my knitting mojo had sort of waned for several months this past year. And I was feeling a bit, how shall we say, discouraged by that, because I would see things that I wanted to make and I would get excited about seeing things that I could make. And then I just didn't have the impetus to actually pick up the things and make the things. In fact, Jennifer, my good friend, since we were four, who was here for a week this past week, as you know, she and I were talking about that. And she said, but don't you find that when you're not stitching, you're still collecting patterns? And I was like, yeah, heck yeah, I'm collecting patterns. I'm buying them even on Ravelry, putting them into my library. I've even been setting them up on Apple Books because that's one of the ways that I like to store my PDF patterns, because they're easy for me to find in that library. And I was like, what is that? So apparently, and we've said it all the time, stitching is sort of one hobby, and then collecting all the crafty things is another hobby. And we say that kind of tongue in cheek, but we're not wrong when we say that. And so I found myself sort of contemplating all of the projects that I have. And I wanted to share with you today my thoughts about monogamy and crafting. And I was hoping to get your thoughts about monogamy and crafting as well. So comment down below if you're watching later, comment in the chat now if you're watching live. I love it. So Martha says, when my mojo sags, I feel I am resetting for a new energy for my knitting. Yes, I completely agree with that. She also says monogamy is definitely overrated for knitting. I need to have social knitting, complex knitting, small and large projects underway. All of that is completely true. And going back to what you said about your sort of resetting for future projects, I think that's completely true. Another conversation that I had in just a couple weeks ago was about how in life there seems to be a season for everything. In fact, when it comes to crafting, that's one of those things that I'm really aware of. I love to collect all the crafty things, and there are things that I want to do. We talked about this a little bit last week about aspirational clutter. And there are things that I have wanted to do. And so I've bought the tools, or I've bought the supplies, I've bought the fabric, I've bought the yarn, and then it sort of sits in a box somewhere in the studio, in all of this behind me, in front of me, in all the cubbies. And I don't really do it for a while. And then, like years later, sometimes, no kidding, this is completely true. Years later, I find it, I go back to it, and then I'm like a house of fire doing that particular craft or that particular project. So, aspirational clutter that we talked about last week is not always a bad thing. We just have to be mindful about the things that we're keeping and whether or not that season is going to come back around for them. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. Of course, before we get into that, I want to talk about our October, yes, October. I know we're in November, but our October 2025 Cancer Awareness Series colorways that have hit the shop. No Time to Breast, October is a big, big month because it is about breast cancer largely. No Time to Breast. I love how Sherry and Terry play on these names. Wordplay is a lot of fun. Is this beautiful tonal pink, of course, patterned after the ribbon for breast cancer from the American Cancer Society. And it is a beautiful, beautiful pink. Again, the color is, the light is what it is. But look at that tonality. This is more than just a tonal solid. This is almost more like a tonal variegated colorway. And it is stunning. It is absolutely beautiful. And while we're at it, I want to mention that it goes perfectly with our new colorway in the shop that debuted last week, which is Homecoming Queen. Look at those two together. If you're a pink lover, or you know somebody who is, or you've got a child, a grandchild, a good friend who loves pink, these are your colors for a holiday project for them. A Christmas project, a Hanukkah project, whatever you celebrate, there's your colors, there's your pair. Homecoming Queen here, and then No Time to Breast here. I love those colorways together so much. Also, what Sherry and Terry have done for us this month is liver cancer is another cancer that's highlighted in the month of October. So Liver and Let Live, I believe, is the name of the green colorway. The mini that goes along for this month as well is in the shop on your choice of Alcott or Hawthorne. So that's a fingering weight mini or a DK weight mini. And then also we have Save the TaTas, which is one of those slogans that we see all over during Breast Cancer Month. And that is another gorgeous pink colorway. So they are all in the shop right now. I know a lot of those have already gone off the shelves this morning and yesterday when they appeared in the shop. Really big month this month specifically. And so you want to go ahead and grab those super quickly. You want to make sure and not miss out on those. I don't have the minis here to show you today, but they are in your newsletter today. And the links are all right there. Of course, you can always go on our website and click the little magnifying glass and search for cancer colorways. Now, also, I wanted to mention down below are the links to many of our other cancer colorways that have been stocked January through now. Some of those we have a few hanks left over. Some have sold out, but some we do have some hanks left over. Some of the minis, some of the full size hanks, especially that beautiful colorful one that I think might be first in the shop down below here on YouTube. If you need to go back and grab some of those hanks to sort of fill in your collection as we move forward and get ready for the Recipe for Hope from Nancy Victorino, the pattern recipe that she has created for the cancer colorways with memorial opportunities through it. Now is a great time to go back and go ahead and stock up on those colorways right now. Get those into your stash so that when that Recipe for Hope is released, you've got the colorways that you need in order to make that meaningful and fill that in for you in your project. Speaking of projects, right? Speaking of projects. Okay. Kim wants to know, can we get extra of this month? Absolutely. I'm always happy to set up special orders for you. Just shoot me an email or a direct message and I will absolutely get it set up for you. Absolutely. I know that these are going to be really, really popular ones already by the sales that have occurred. So I want to make sure that you go ahead and get those orders in so that you can get those. Pardon me while I take a sip of tea. Our temperatures here are cooling off, and I've heard from some of my friends in Florida that the temperatures there have cooled off as well. So I think that the country as a whole is sort of sliding into fall. It's been really interesting here because we got the most beautiful show with the fall leaves. And when my friend Jennifer was here and we were driving around, she too got to see the leaves, but she got here just in time because we had a couple of heavy rains and the leaves came tumbling down. And now we can see with probably about 70% accuracy through the forest down to the lake that is close to us. And during the summer months, you couldn't see the lake at all because the trees were so full of beautiful green leaves. But they've changed their colors. And now, because of the rains and because we're sliding into winter soon, those leaves have started to fall. They're beautiful, of course. We spent last evening in the little town of Norway, Maine, for their downtown Halloween big celebration, and we were with our church giving out candy and toys to kids and had a lot of fun. I'm not ashamed to say I got teary-eyed. I got really misty because it was probably the first time since we've been here that we've participated in a sort of a larger community event. We're very active with the church, but we were in a larger community event, and just the community vibes and chatting with people, I was like, yeah, this is what we love. And it was a lot of fun to be there and have the time there in Norway last night. So I hope you all had a good time wherever you were. If you sat out on your drive and greeted kids, or if you were inside knitting with your lights off because you didn't want to be bothered, whatever you did to celebrate, I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful time. All right, let's talk really quick about the Sankaku Knit Along. That's coming up November 8th. I'm looking at my notes to make sure I get it right. We're going to start on that November 8th. We would have started a little bit sooner, but I wanted to make sure that everybody had time to get their kits. Now, the good news is it's still not too late to order a kit. Those will be shipping out. Of course, if yours hasn't shipped yet, or if you order one this weekend, they'll ship out really quickly this week. But you don't have to cast on at exactly the same time everybody else does, because you don't have to have a finished object in order to be prize eligible for our knit alongs. All you have to do is use olive and 2U yarn. And yes, you can use your stash olive and 2U. You can use legacy colorways. You can use new yarn that's in the shop, whatever you want to do. So just use olive and 2U yarn. Join us for the Sankaku Knit Along. It's a great opportunity to dive into mosaic knitting, which is kind of the gateway drug for color work. And it's super easy because you're only knitting with one colorway at a time. Now, Mary Nielsen and I have gone ahead and put together 3 videos. Again, not tutorials, but commentary, tips, and tricks to help you get through that pattern. It's not a difficult pattern, but it does perhaps have a few techniques that maybe you've not yet encountered. So she and I've come together and put together 3 videos that we will start releasing as soon as the knit along begins, to give you that commentary and tips and tricks along the way. She is in the process of knitting her second Sankaku, having finished her first one. And on those videos, you'll be able to see her finished Sankaku. So that is very, very exciting. I have my yarn all caked up. I had cast mine on during our trip to Scotland. Yeah, that was not a brilliant thing for me to do. So I frogged it, and I'm going to start again. You know, it was funny. I had a conversation with somebody this week, and they said, it was funny because I think she was kind of tiptoeing, which you never have to do with me. You don't have to tiptoe. I'm pretty much a cards on the table sort of person, pretty transparent. And she's like, you know, when you do things and you show things, you know, she said, it's not like if Michelle can do it, anybody can do it. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because I'm a little slow on the uptake sometimes learning things. So it is also incredibly accessible. Don't be afraid to try. And if you make a mistake, you can always fix it, or you can always take it to your local yarn store and have them fix it, which I'm not above doing, or you can simply frog it like I did and then begin again. So it's a great opportunity to learn mosaic knitting. There's also, I want to say it's an I-cord bind off. There are a couple other little fun things in it. Again, nothing that is incredibly onerous, nothing you can't handle. And we've got videos. We've got videos to help you get through it. although they're not exactly tutorials. So links are down below right now here on YouTube to the Sankaku kits. Of course, you can put your own kit together as well. And just remember, the pattern is not included in the kit for knitting that pattern, but the link to the pattern is included down below in the show notes this morning, and also in the listing for the kits. The link appears there, so you can go ahead and snap your pattern up, take a look at it. It's always a good idea to read clear through your pattern before you get started, and so you have a good idea of what's going to happen. But don't be afraid. Mary and I are going to help you get through it. I'm going to show you my mug. I picked this up at a secondhand shop here, and I love it so much. It says Evergreen Philanthropic Solutions. I have no idea what that is. I should probably Google it. I just liked the pine tree on it and the green nature of it. So that's what I'm drinking my tea out of this morning, thanks to my wonderful husband. And let me tell you, I'm drinking all the tea lately. Okay, so what am I working on right now? Does anybody remember? I began another very simple sweater. And I showed you, I think, the cast on last week during the podcast. I'm doing this in buttered toffee. This is a colorway. I'm almost to the end of my first cake that Sherry and Terry dyed up. And I love, love, love this sort of coppery, brassy, but not in a bad way. Brassy, that word brassy has such a bad rap. Nobody wants brassy hair, but I don't mind brass on other things. But this sort of coppery, beautiful colorway, buttered toffee that is just absolutely delicious. And that's what I am making my second one, or another one in, I should say. So I'm just a few rows. I'm not very far from the sleeve separation. It's hard to tell because I've, me with those short cables, I like having everything on a short cable because let's all say it together. You've heard it from me 1,000 times. I love how when you use a short cable, the stitches just advance themselves. And I really like that. This is one of my, is it Brambleberry? One of my cute little Brambleberry stitch markers here. Those are hand embroidered, y'all, that I got in Scotland. I know some of you get them and order them from overseas, but I picked these up, and then I might have picked up some Christmas ones as well. So that's what I'm working on right now. I'm getting close to my sleeve separation. Very excited about that. As I mentioned, I've got like all the knitting mojo right now happening. Like my energy, my bag is full of knitting mojo, and I'm having a lot of fun with that. But speaking of being non-monogamous when it comes to all the crafts, I want to hear down below in the comments what other crafts you do besides knitting. I know we've got knitters here. I know we've got crocheters here. What else do you do? And while you let me know in the comments, and we'll talk about some of those, I'm going to show you some other things that I have on the needles that I can't, or some other projects I have in process, I should say, that I can't wait to finish. I'm wearing my Gossamer Twist today, by the way. I really, really love this sweater. I know that Julie Garland just finished another Gossamer Twist in a beautiful colorway called Meant to Be. And it is, I've seen photos of it in the Yarny Use. So if you're not in the Yarny Use, you want to join to see all the beautiful pictures of all the projects. So this is my second Gossamer Twist. Yes, it's wrinkled because it's been folded up in a project bag, but this is my second Gossamer Twist on Snow White, and sleeves are separated. Just working down on this. I had to get a little bit more of our Bronte yarn in Snow White because this is held double. It's actually Atwood, which is our bulky, held double with Bronte, and not just one. What's the word I'm looking for? Not just one thread of Bronte, but two. So 3 strands is what I'm holding for this. And so I'm getting pretty close to finishing this up. So that's going to be finished up, hopefully in the nearest future, because I love that so much. And then when Jennifer was here, we had a little fun. I'll show you really quickly. We worked on some stuff that we did while we were in Scotland. Now, Jennifer didn't go to Scotland with us, but I did. And myself and our Scotland travelers were very fortunate to be able to take part in a landscape needle felting workshop. Now, you've seen my piece that is not yet finished. And yeah, it looks a little like outer space meets the Scottish landscape. Let me show you. My son didn't come out right. So this isn't finished yet, but that was the one that I worked on and I still need to finish. You can kind of see some mountains and a sunset and that kind of thing. So there's that. Oh, Julie, that's right. Meant to be as a yoon. Forgive me, I forgot. You're right. And then Jennifer and I did some landscape needle felting too. This is again not finished. And if you're not very well versed in Maine, you won't really recognize what this is. Even if you are, you might not recognize it because an artist I am not. But this is my other one that I'm working on. So this here spells love, L-U-V, and Pleasant Mountain is a very well-known mountain here in Bridgeton. And back in the 30s, I believe it was, the townspeople got together and cut out snowmobile trails that spelled love. And so I was trying to sort of recreate that. I didn't do the grandest job, and it's not done yet. But again, I love this. This is a lot of fun to do. It's another sort of crafty thing that I enjoy to do, and I plan to do more of that. It's something that you can actually sit down and get into. You don't have to be super talented, as you can see by mine, but you can have a really good time doing it, and it's a lot of fun to do. There are techniques that you need to know that I can share that are simple techniques, and then you just kind of go from there. So Jennifer and I worked on that. She made a beautiful landscape piece that, again, hers looked way better than mine, but we had a really good time doing it. And then this week, y'all know that I like to do some slow stitching. And this week I was at a secondhand store and I found these wonderful spools. And so I picked some of these up. These are great for slow stitching scrolls or rolls. So you have like a long piece of muslin that you are stitching on, and then you wrap it up. And sometimes it tells a story and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it has a theme and sometimes it doesn't. Mary Nielsen has some of these that are beautiful. You roll it up along the spool, and then you can unroll it to tell the story or to look at it or to share it, and then roll it back up. So I picked up one of these spool. Actually, did I get more than one? I meant to get more than one. I'll have to go back. I think I just picked up one and grabbed some more. I was in a hurry the day that I was in there. So this is for my slow stitching. Some of you may remember seeing this. This still isn't done. This, because I'm a baby quilter, I've made one whole quilt for my son Eli. But a couple years ago, this is a whip. A couple years ago, I pieced this pumpkin table runner, and it was my first real piecing project, you might say, and it's not done. It still needs to be quilted. I started trying to quilt it free motion, which I think I sort of could do, but my machine started having issues, and so I don't know what was happening. The quilt sandwich is made, as you can see. The backing is on it. The quilt sandwich is made, but it's not fully quilted yet. And I'd really like to get that done and bound off. I think it would be a lot of fun. And it's only been, I don't know, 3 fall seasons, 3 Halloweens that I've been looking at this in my studio going, wow, I'd really like to have that done, but it's not done. But you know, there's a season for it all. So that's kind of, those are sort of some of the things that I have in process now, except I'm getting ready to get 2 more things in process. I bet you can guess what one of them is. So I do plan to do the Sankaku. Very excited about that. And I have had this yarn, some of y'all are going to laugh when you see it. I have had this yarn staring me in the face for a whole year now. A whole year. This is Sea Glass. And this is Sea Glass on Bronte. And I have had this for a whole year. I love these colors, and I've been dying to cast something on. This was yarn that was dyed specifically for me to knit up the Wednesday sweater by Petite Knit. It's a turtleneck. I'm like all about turtlenecks the last couple of years. It's a turtleneck. It's called the Wednesday sweater. And that was right about the time that my knitting mojo was like, see ya. So it's been sitting over there. And I know some of you have asked me, are you going to like ever cast that on? And I kept saying, yes, I love that sweater. I will get to it. And I do love the Wednesday sweater, but there's a whole lot of stuff wrapped up in that sweater. And so I have decided to repurpose this yarn. I think, for another project, and I'm going to show you what it is. So this is my favorite thing. It's sweater number 9. It's very similar to the Wednesday sweater with some significant differences, namely the construction on this is a lot easier. It's a lot easier. It's top down, seamless, very, very, very simple. The Wednesday sweater, there's a lot of like work on this shoulder, work on that shoulder. Now put the shoulders together. I don't really want to do that. It's more of a modular pattern. So I think I've decided to do this pattern instead. Now it's going to be interesting because I've got a slight variance in my yarn weight for this, but I think I can make it work. So I've printed this out and I'm going to cast on sweater number 9, my favorite things, and get that done. Pam Howard, do the Monday sweater instead. Yeah, I know, right? Right? I know. So many different sweaters. So I plan to have all of those things on the needles at the same time. My question is, how do you decide what to work on when? And I think Martha made a really good point because she thinks kind of the way I do. You really have to have something that's simple and mindless that you can do when you're chatting or say watching TV, something more complex, a different sort of project when you're on your own and you really want to engage your brain and have something to sort of work through like a little puzzle, and maybe something smaller and more portable that'll fit in your handbag. So there's lots of ways to sort of parse out what project you work on when. Back when I was in college, I was a big, like a total journal junkie. I loved reading journals, psychology journals. That was my area that I was studying. And so I would have different journals in different places in the house. And that's not a really bad idea for projects either. Maybe you've got one on the couch where you sit, maybe one in your easy chair, one in your knitting chair, one in, each different place. I don't know how you feel about knitting in the bathroom, but if you spend a lot of time, you can always do that too. So there are all different places that you can sort of plant your projects and you can work on them at different times. Maybe you've got, a smaller project that lives in your purse for when you're out and those sorts of things. Karen says next to the bed. There you go. All sorts of things. Good morning, Lydia. So those are some ideas of ways that you can kind of sort out what goes where in terms of your knitting. But yeah, I think monogamy is way overrated when it comes to crafting. I do. Either buying all the things, stitching all the things, or doing all the things. I'm interested in pottery and clay and all of that right now too. So it doesn't even have to be textiles, although I have to say textiles are my first love for sure. So I want to take a look real quick. I saw some of you mentioning the things that you're into. Quilting is a big one for sure. Somebody says genealogy. I see sewing, tatting, cross stitch, embroidery, drawing, Japanese ink painting, watercolor, pastels, basketry. Okay, spinning, brooms, all sorts of things. Sock cranking. Yes, quilter. Martha's a quilter. I know we've got several quilters in the group, which is great. If you haven't already joined M&M So Charming, which is a fantastic quilting group on the interwebs, I encourage you to do it. That's Mary and Marjorie, and it's wonderful. So Lydia says she's going to try making pottery, silversmithing, wax casting. Look at all this. Pam says there are people that will do the quilting for you. Yeah, that's true. So somebody told me when I first expressed an interest in quilting, so you can quilt by hand, you can quilt by machine, or you can quilt by check. And I pretty much thought I would be a quilt by check sort of person, but I decided I wanted to give it a go on my own. So we'll see if that nifty little pumpkin table runner ever sees the light of day, if I can actually get it completed. But I really think monogamy is way overrated when it comes to crafting. That's just my opinion. And I think you all sort of agree. Karen Burnett says she quilts by hand. That is very, very impressive. In the fall, it's the time for a lot of quilting shows. I know that I went to one recently. Jennifer went to one recently. And I'd be willing to bet some of you went to some or participated in them. And I was really impressed at the quilting show here in Bridgeton. They actually had a neat little way to indicate on the quilts if they were quilted by hand as opposed to machine. They had a little like a little felt glove that they put on the quilt. And then you knew. And some of those, I looked at and they were so intricately done and so evenly done that I would have absolutely guessed that they were done by machine, but nope, they were done by hand. That is real skill, I have to say. So a couple other really quick things talking about crafting. Let's talk about crafting for others. We have 2 patterns in the newsletter for you this week, 2 quick, sweet kerchief patterns for you that you can bang out 1, 2, or multiples of getting ready as we slide into the holiday season. Monica has even put together for you collections of yarn suggestions for each of those patterns. Those links are for you in the newsletter this week. And then the gift shop online has been restocked. If you love the little Coo pom-pom maker that our Scotland travelers got, there might be one in the gift shop. It might have already flown off the shelf. I'm not sure. But there are some really cute things in the gift shop. They make great gifts for yourself or for other fiber friends. When Jennifer was here, we kept saying to each other, we'd be out shopping, treat yourself. Treat yourself. So let me just say to you this morning, treat yourself. The gift shop has little gifts of a variety of price points that makes it really easy and nice to treat yourself. So don't hesitate to do that. Speaking of being treated, you know, I've mentioned this a couple of times. Many of you know that our little Cooper had to be euthanized a few weeks ago, just before we went to Scotland. And I shared with you the little memorial stones that Valera sent to us, and they're so beautiful. Well, this week we received a gift from Cooper and Sadie's sort of doggy babysitter, dog walker down in Florida, Becky, who was amazing. She kept them at our home all the traveling that we did back and forth to Scotland, and she was wonderful, and they loved her so much. And this week, what came in the mail was this. They were kind of Becky's favorites, I think. She told us she has photos of them in her own home, and she sent us this beautiful glass photo of Cooper that just really captured his little soulful eyes. This was one of the times that she was at our home in Florida, keeping he and Sadie. And yeah, it was just, this was several years ago. He had ended up a little grayer around the snout just before he passed. So this is going to go into, I think I'm going to get a shadow box made with this photo, his collar, one of the memorial stones that Valera sent us, his little paw print, and some other items. So I thought I'd share that because I thought it was really awesome. And I'm just so grateful for how people remember that fur babies are our babies, just like our regular family. Speaking of fur babies, I have got to knit Sadie a sweater. That's another thing I want to get on the needles. I've picked out a pattern, and it's in worsted weight yarn. So I'm going to rumble through my stash or maybe get something out of the shop and make Sadie a sweater. I've also found a fleece sweater that she's going to need. It's interesting because I can tell that she's a little chilly sometimes because she'll burrow under the blankets or she lays up against the baseboard heat register. It's not too hot. It doesn't burn her, but it is interesting that it keeps her kind of warm. So there's snow, not in our area yet, but we've seen it on the map and kind of working its way slowly this way. So we know the time is coming soon, and we want to be sure that Sadie is nice and warm. So I think a dog sweater is in my future. And my husband, as many of you know, keeps saying, how about a vest for me? That man really needs a vest, and he needs me to knit it. So I need to get on that. Kim says, my husband says, I always treat myself. Yes, my husband would concur, actually. Trust me, actually would totally concur. But treat yourself. Treat yourself to all the good things. All right. I am so grateful for you all so much and for being here on Saturdays and then watching later. I know so many of you watch later, and that is a wonderful thing as well. Keep on in the Yarn You Use, posting your progress pictures. Whatever your craft is, we want to see all the crafts. Even if you're not monogamous, we want to see all the things that you're working on in the Yarn You Use. And if you haven't joined yet, there's a link down below in the show notes so you too can join one of the most supportive corners on the internet. As usual, if there's anything at all that I can help with, don't hesitate to shoot me out an email. We're going to go see the goats this afternoon, another fall favorite thing to do for me, but I will always get back to your emails. So let me know if I can help in any way. Until then, thank you so much. Keep stitching, and I will definitely see you in the Yarny Use. Have a great afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much. Bye.